First of all, welcome back to the city. I know
Thanks,
you've been
sir.
here a number of times. Get right to it. 50 years since your uncle was here and spoke, and they've been running newspaper articles talking about what it was like that. In your assessment, what's changed in that 50 years?
Obviously, um, from what I've been able to pick up by shallow research, with the University of St. Francis opening its door 50 years ago, during a tumultuous time in the country as it relates to race relations, there had to be some people, some white people who had some passion about some immortal words that all people are created equal. And they opened doors to this university, to Dr. King to come and share what he shared, to speak directly to your question. We have made measurable and visible strides in race relations. In my opinion, race is no longer America's chief ill. It's the lack of the distribution of the wealth that's America's chief ill.
Okay. And when you, so is that like a new civil rights battle then? The way
Well,
the resources are spread in this.
Well, I wouldn't context it as a civil rights issue. We pretty much legislated civil rights. Uh, we pretty much legislated the evils of civil rights off of the American front page. We have now uh, more human rights issues than we have civil rights issues. Uh, Namely, one, rights issue is the same sex issue.
Okay.
That's a human rights issue.
Now it's interesting too because as a member of clergy, and I know some people there's a divide in what people think about that. But when you say human rights, you're talking about you taking this out of the context of just religion. It sounds like.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I'm not homophobic. Let me hurry up and say that. But I believe what the Bible said. Says, not said. I believe what the Bible says.
So from that standpoint, how would you explain to people your position and what you would feel to be a correct position on that issue in American life?
Without any hesitation, um, I am a Bible-believing Christian. In the book of Leviticus, God had made it crystal clear on his position on how people should partner up as it relates to intimacy and intercourse. I'm not debating people, cause who goes to heaven? That's God's business.
Okay.
I'm just saying, this is what he said. This is what I believe. This is how I conduct myself.
Okay. So when it comes to human rights, though, what in American society, given law, what should happen?
Well, give me a little bit more. What should happen?
Yeah. Okay. With same-sex marriage, what should happen legislatively? Is there is there a conflict? I don't want to say conflict, but the issue that I know people have grappled with in America is that, okay, we have a, quote, democracy that, despite what folks talk about the founding fathers, it's a secular democracy. But some of us have various spiritual or religious beliefs. What do we do about that in American society?
Well, uh, you mentioned them, the founding fathers. Uh, some people strongly contend that Thomas Jefferson was the architect of the Constitution. Uh, but Thomas Jefferson was a slave owner.
That's, okay.
All people are created equal. And we know there was a loophole in there that people who look like you and me weren't people. The Constitution is a fantastic document, full of loopholes. We live and are governed, we live under it and are governed by it. Built into the Constitution are what we call the three legislative bodies, executive, legislative, judicial. And under that Constitution, the judicial arm of our branches of government are debating that human rights issue. They debating it, but Constitution is the document that governs us. And sometimes I have to remind people the first two constitutional rights we have. The first one is to believe whatever you want to believe, and the second one, you can carry a gun.
Okay. To enforce
What you say, Herbie?
To enforce what you believe. So, I guess then the question is whether what you're saying is whether a person says, personally, may not believe that that is a proper lifestyle, that the Constitution, if this is what folks are going by, the Constitution guarantees people the right to live the way they want to.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, could you be saying that from the standpoint, and I'm going to get to this a little bit more in a moment, from the standpoint of, let's say, the church, that maybe that's more of an internal issue, and that's the thing of teaching people on an individual level, and not necessarily this battle that needs to be carried on in the government arena?
I think we're gonna have both of them. We're gonna have both of them. It's gonna be the faith community advocating the biblical position. But then don't forget, you got some people in the faith community who are advocating the same sex is cool. But again, I don't want to stay on this too long.
No.
Another rights issue is a woman's choice.
One second.